we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Shelly Kino, and this is Hashtag No Limits. Hashtag No Limits is about people whose society has placed limits upon, but who are busting through those limits. Ophelia says in Hamlet, "We know who we are, but not who we will be." And I believe that to be 100% true, and that there is no better example or a more beautiful example than the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. For those who don't know, the caterpillar literally dissolves into its cells, and then just when it thought life was over, it reforms into the beautiful butterfly. But that's not struggling enough. It's not over. It then has to fight to get out of that cocoon in order to make its wings strong enough to take it all the places that it's going to go. And while that can't be easy, there is a beautiful outcome. And I truly believe that our struggles help us all to become that butterfly. And when we can look at things from a different perspective, we can help others become the beautiful butterflies that they are to become as well. So today I have a returning guest. Michael Murray was with me a few weeks ago, and we talked about his life. We're going to do a little quick synopsis of that today because today's episode, he brought up something in that other episode, and I said, "Oh, I've never thought about that. That's a great topic. Let's talk about that." And so we're going to talk about adoption today and being someone who is adopting, who has disabilities. Adopting isn't easy, but you compound that when you have disabilities. And so he's going to share with us the journey of adopting his son. So, Michael, how are you doing today? Thank you for coming back.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. We had such a great conversation last time. I know that today is going to be just as great. So for anyone who has not joined me before, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you are watching with us live today, give us a hashtag live and tell us where you're watching from. If you watch it in the replay, do the same thing, but just say hashtag replay. If you have any comments or questions for Michael or myself during this time, or if you're watching in the replay, pop them into the chat and I will be sure to share them with Michael afterwards, or if it's during the show live, I will pop them up on the screen. So enough about me. Michael, give everybody joining us today a little bit about who you are and kind of your background.
Okay, well, for anybody who did not see the other episode, the quick version is that I was born with a disability called cerebral palsy. I lost oxygen at birth, and that what caused the CP, and that affects my motor skills and things like that. And I was born in New York. My parents won a trip to Disney World when I was about 7 years old. We came down here, and my mom and dad, they loved it so much and thought the weather would be a little bit easier for me. So we moved down to Orlando about a year later. But I've been here ever since I was 7 years old. Let's see, I am a writer. I write books. Devotional books, and 10 years ago now, I married my wife, Diana, so can't believe it, it's been 10 years.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think that's kind of the nutshell of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned on our last episode was that when you were at a restaurant with your soon-to-be wife,
Right,
there was someone in the restaurant that when you got up to go to pay or go to the restroom or whatever, she made a comment to your soon-to-be wife. Do you remember what that was?
Well, first, I think it started out by asking, are you, because we were discussing our wedding that day, making the guest list. So when I left, this person said to Diana, "Oh, are you gonna marry him?" And Diana said yes. And then the person asked, Are you gonna have kids with him?" Which Diana thought was kind of, a pretty straightforward question, I guess.
Yeah.
Not really something you ask somebody, but but I think her answer was yeah. At some point, we do want kids.
Yeah. It just boggles my mind. But that's one of those limits that I mentioned, is that so often people see on an outside a certain thing, and then they make assumptions, and they set those limits upon that person and their abilities and their potential. And I so appreciate that you brought that story up, and the fact that you have now adopted your son. So just for anybody who is watching, adoption is not an easy process. Hi, Fran from Southern Illinois. Thank you for joining us today. I think you were with us the last time, if I remember correctly. And it's a long, drawn out, expensive process. It's heart wrenching for many wanting to be parents, and all of that is a very difficult journey to go through. So, if you want to elaborate on any of that part of it, that, like, maybe from your wife's perspective, what it was like for her as well. But when you went into the adoption agency, I'm just going to let you share, because I have an imagination about what happened, but I want to hear it from you.
Before we go any further with the adoption story, I wanted to say one thing about adoption, and that is there is a hero of every adoption story, and that hero really is the mother of the child. So I don't want to make that. I don't feel like I want to say that.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
The mother who gave birth to the baby, we try to honor her with everything we do. And I don't want to say that up front, because I think sometimes you can see adoption as people could be like, oh, you're doing such a great thing. I do think it is a great thing, but sometimes we could look at the mother with a little bit of, judgment, And
that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. That is very true, and I appreciate your sentiment with that.
And that is something that we had to learn as we went through the process. They really teach you to look at things like that. So when we got married, we knew we wanted to have kids at some point, and she having CP does not necessarily affect your ability to have birth kids naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a woman that has CP and she had a baby. So we always thought adoption was something really, really cool that we might do later on. But for a while, we didn't think we would have kids. Because biologically, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but after a few years, we determined that that wasn't working out. Um, so we looked into other avenues like IVF, you know, but we didn't get that far down that road because it just seemed like it would be a lot of strain on Diana. And
Sure. It is a very, I've not done it, but I've known friends who have done it, and it is a very, very taxing
yeah,
opportunity process. I don't know what the right word is there.
yeah, yeah. We know people that done it too. So we were glad to have them to tell us about it. You know,
Yeah.
and again, you know, for them, it was the right choice. But we decided maybe we should look into the adoption thing, you know, more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so and the first step to any adoption is to get a home study done. And that when somebody comes in, um, they examine your house, but they also go through all of your, they go through all your finances, all your whatever you think is private, they're gonna basically uncover, you know. Um, so we had a home study done in the summer of 2020. We were getting ready for it in the middle of COVID, you know, which was a crazy time, you know.
Yeah. Can I pause for just a second and ask you to elaborate? You just mentioned, the fact that those home studies are very invasive. You didn't use that word, but I'm going to use that word. And that they do, they want your whole life laid out so that they can decide if your home is appropriate.
Yeah.
What sort of impression did you receive when this person who did this home study saw you for the first time or spoke to you for the first time?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, I mean, I think we had both of it phone at first. So going in, like she knew that I had CP, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But when she came over, I was very nervous, you know?
Right.
And she came over and we sat down and she got to know us a little bit. And and she said, I'm gonna be very honest with you. She was like, it's gonna be, you guys really are gonna face a different kind of challenge than most couples because I do have a disability, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that the birth mother is gonna have to know about. They're gonna have to know about, and they're gonna have to select you. You know. So I was glad that she didn't sugarcoat it for us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because she was like, but given that you guys wanted to do this, she was able to offer us some tips about what we should do, you know?
And can you share some of those tips in case there are others going through what you went through?
Yeah. I should add, she also had some encouraging stories of past clients she had that had a disability also, and that were able to adopt, So that was
Mhm.
good to hear that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what he did was, so after the home study, basically you have to choose an adoption agency. But what she told us was, instead of choosing one agency, she recommended that we go with an adoption consultant.
Oh.
And the difference with that is this consultant, which they were a great consultancy, and their name was Hello Baby, I believe.
Oh.
But they really work with you, and they have contacts with a lot of different agencies,
Mm-hmm.
And she was like basically saying, because you're probably gonna get a lot of no's before you get a yes, you want to make sure you have as many opportunities as you can. And so
Yeah.
going with this with consultant, and that will enable you to really get your profile in front of more mothers to just increase the chances.
Yeah. And so I have a question that if you don't want to answer, I completely understand. So if you don't want to answer, just say no, thank you. Do you think it's fair the way that you were looked at and the words that you were said, as far as, that it's going to be that much more difficult for you and you're probably going to get a lot of no's because of your disability?
That's a good question. I don't know if it fair, but I know that it was accurate. Why don't fair? And I had a lot of emotions that day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a moment that it really hit me the hardest was, so at one point, she looks at our house, everything is going good. And at one point, she had to separate me and Diana and talk to us individually.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was my turn, they ask why do you think Diana will be a good mother? And that was a very easy question for me,
Sure.
And they basically wanted to see if they're on the same page,
Right. Yeah.
But at the end of that conversation, where it was just me and her, she looked at me and she was like, okay, now you need to know, I need to make one thing clear, that like, if you adopt this child, as a baby, you need to understand that like you cannot be alone with this baby at any time. Meaning that, like, if Diana can't leave to go to the store for 10 minutes, you cannot be alone because of safety things. And he said, like, do you understand that, basically, and do you agree to that?
Hmm.
I said yes, you know. And again, it's like one of the things was like, yes, I would never want to be alone and with a baby. But something about hearing that out loud, kind of like gets you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wiped a tear away. I can't imagine being the person that was being said to and about, how emotional that must have been for you. It's still like, okay, I'm going to take myself off camera because
But I think like one of the things was like, man, did you have to, say it like, can't it be a thing where like we both kind of know it, but we don't have to say it.
right.
But
Yeah.
she had a job to do, legally. She had to make that known,
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that was incredibly difficult to hear. And another question before you continue, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting your flow of thoughts here. How long does that home study take? Is it just one visit or is it multiple visits?
The home study. Getting all the paperwork together took us a couple months. So we had to get like letters of recommendation. We had to get the money stuff figured out. We had to get, but then the actual visit was only one visit, or
Okay.
maybe like 2 hours, maybe a couple hours. So,
Okay.
you know,
And it was
and
in that
then,
visit where they separated you and spoke to you individually.
like, yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, she had to go back and take a look at everything, all the paperwork, and give us, like a yes or a no. And once you get approved for the home study, it's good for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
if you don't adopt within a year, you have to basically get renewed.
Hmm.
I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier to get renewed. You don't have to do everything over, but you still have to get it. Renewed.
Right. And did you have to get yours renewed? Was it longer than a year in the process?
Luckily, we didn't. We didn't have to.
That's wonderful. So I do want to just read. We have gotten a comment from Fran, and she says, I get it. I have different needs and was trusted to watch a friend's toddlers. It was overwhelming that she trusted me with my different needs. I could not have done it when they were babies.
Yeah, babies are a different thing than toddlers.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And just like now, now it's completely different. But when they're babies, you know, they're very fragile.
Yeah. And very dependent on the adults.
I
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I'm sorry. I've interrupted your flow multiple times. So
No.
you had the home visit. That was a few hours in actuality, but the preparation for it was months. And she had to have that conversation with you. Were you able to find out what Diana said were the reasons she felt you would be a good father? And were you able to share your reasons why you thought she would be a good mother?
Yeah. We spoke about it after, and I think we both said we both really said that we spoke about our commitment to God and each other, you know, and just the way that we have. I think for me, she may have said something about me being funny or having humor, you know.
I somehow get the impression that you're really good at dad jokes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so it was you know, luckily we passed that test,
Good.
and that was in June of 2020.
Okay.
And then we got connected to the adoption consultancy, and we had a very good experience with them. We had kind of our own person who we could like call anytime, ask questions. But basically, the next step is you gotta put together this booklet that gets presented to each of the mothers, you know?
Oh, okay.
So, and the booklet basically says who you are as as a family, who you are, what kind of family you are, a little bit about where you live, what you do. So we had to get started on that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also where we where we got the advice we got was to be honest about your disability, you know.
Sure. You don't want to mislead someone right from the front. That's definitely not going to help them want to hand over their child to you.
and so we took time to really put that book together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get pictures taken and just all that good stuff. And so that took that probably took a couple of months too to really think about that, because luckily they kind of guided us through it, like what you want to put in there, the kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and then once you get your book ready, then after all that, then you are ready to start presenting to the expectant mothers.
Okay.
And that is where things get really emotional,
Oh, yeah, I could imagine.
And as I said, because we did the adoption consultant and not just one agency, the good thing was we were getting a lot of opportunities to present our profile, I think I've heard stories about other people where they were only, with some couples, they may have only got to present their profile maybe once a month,
Mm-hmm.
where we were getting a couple of opportunities every week.
Wow.
And
So when you say present this? Like they look at your binder first, or you present the binder in person to the expectant mother?
What happened is like, well, we get an email from the agency or a consultancy that works with different agencies, and we have this case, this abandoned mother, uh, that we think might be a good fit for you. Or would you like to present your book to them? So we get to read a little bit about their story.
Oh, okay.
We can see like when they, how old they are, where they live, what their due date is, and then we're like, oh, yeah. If we say yes, we want to present our book to them, then the agency they give our book to that mother.
Okay.
And the mother, she might get, they might present her with 4 or 5 of them.
Wow.
And obviously, if she doesn't like any of those, she can request more,
Mm-hmm.
But normally, they try to only, and they don't want to give somebody 20 options and completely overwhelm them,
Sure.
They try to be, these are like the 4 families that we think will be a good fit for what you want,
Mm-hmm.
Because they might, on that end, they might already say like, oh, we want our, like, I want my baby to go to a couple that hasn't put them first,
Right.
Or we want our, baby to go with a couple that doesn't have any faith in God. So like, they'll take their preference and try to match it with who they have,
Mm-hmm.
So we did that a lot, and we got a lot of no's,
Yeah.
But we kind of just expected that,
Yeah.
We were saying this might take a year or 2,
I imagine that even expecting the no's, especially the first one, it still was very difficult.
Yeah.
And what was this doing to your marriage at the time? Was it adding, I mean, I can only imagine it was adding more strain and stress.
Yeah, it was a weird time in general because it was COVID time. So a lot of the ideas that they tell you to do, like, oh, go, go somewhere to take your mind off of it. Early, for a few months, we really couldn't do that too much.
Right.
But we were really just, we would just kind of keep looking forward to the next one,
Yeah. And Fran asks kind of a follow-up to what I said, but she asks, what helped you to persevere through the process?
Yeah. It was, a lot of it was that we had each other and we knew that we knew that we knew that this was the option that we wanted to do. We knew we were, and even that woman who did the home study at the beginning said, like, prepare yourselves for at least a year to wait, you know?
Oh, okay. So you at least had been, it wasn't just your thought, it was that someone else was telling you that it could take at least a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the hardest thing happened because one day, I think it was kind of in the middle of maybe a few months before we got that we got a call that said that there was a mother who she did not want to make the choice about who to pick, so she was leaving it up to the agency.
Oh, wow.
And the agency decided to pick us. So we got a call basically saying that you've been selected.
What did that feel like?
And then literally, I kind of was like a little bit like, something didn't really seem right about that. I had this feeling, and then literally, it was like literally 10 minutes later, they called back and they were like, hey, so the mother decided that she does want to look at some more profile bumps.
Oh my gosh. That's like you're on the mountaintop and then the whole mountain just was removed.
And so the story I told her, I couldn't help but thinking that, the agency picked us, but then the mother saw our book and she didn't, maybe seeing that I had a disability made her, not want to pick us, Yeah. I think it was hard for me to not be thinking that,
Right. Absolutely. And what did that kind of do to your own self-confidence? And did you have any guilt at all that somehow you were preventing Diana from being a mother?
I think I definitely felt like a little bit down on myself. Yeah. Even though I knew there wasn't anything I could do, it still it was still hard to not have my mind go there. Like was this something that like, especially like wow, you say we got picked, and then literally 10 minutes later, it was like wait,
Yeah. I know how my husband and I had 5 years of trying before we were able to conceive our daughter. And I remember every time the pregnancy test came back negative and how I felt like somehow it was my fault. And he felt that way too. And, when you are working at something for so long and nothing's happening, you tend to start thinking inward, what am I not doing? What am I? And especially me as the female thinking, should I be eating differently? Should I be, there were just questions after questions after questions. And so, not that I obviously can put myself exactly in your position, but I definitely can empathize a little bit, at least.
Yeah.
What the process was for you all.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's very painful. I can't really, but that whole other set of issues that I think the woman goes through, and just feel like, knowing that I think it was that thing where we're like, well, I know that I would never want Diana to feel like she did something wrong. And so I know that she would never want me to think that I did something wrong,
Right. And you haven't, neither one of you.
Right. So I think that kind of what helped,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, oh man, like that was kind of like I was thinking, I wonder if they kind of jumped the gun on that, and they were like, maybe they should have like at least said, hey, this is the family we picked for you, like. Can you give us an okay before we go call them? Or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they were that agency. I think maybe they were excited to like see us get chosen.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just out of like excitement that they, because I know when they called back, I know that they felt very bad. Like we could hear it,
Yeah, I would imagine, at least I hope so, and I would imagine so.
But that day was just a very emotional day.
Yeah, I think that's probably an understatement, actually, Michael.
Yeah, I think because even after that, there was still a chance that we could have got picked,
Right.
But we didn't, So.
And so how long was it then from the time that you started off the process until you were actually chosen and the mom stuck with that? You said it was under a year, but how much?
When you think about it, it actually wasn't that long, even though it felt long. It was actually. We had the home study in June, and then in the middle of March we got this case presented to us, and we said and we said yes, so for a while, At that point, we were kind of just like, I feel like we were just pros at it. Okay, do it, but we really didn't think a lot about each one anymore. But then, like, I think that was like. I think it was like a week later when it was a Saturday, I had just finished recording a video
Mhm.
for my YouTube channel,
Okay.
and I went to go lay down after that, and then Diana comes up in the room on the phone and on speaker, and it says that the mother of that one just selected us.
Wow.
And we couldn't believe it. And it's very hard because nothing is finalized until they. So the way it works, at least in our state, is when the baby is born, the mother has 48 hours to change her mind. And that is so hard, but I think it is. I think it is a good thing to have. As much as it is hard, I think. I think that the mother should have every right to change her mind when she sees that baby. You know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm sure those 48 hours felt just as long as the previous year and a half from the time you started the process until the baby was born.
Yes. So that, and also so we get the call and basically, you know, they're saying that the mother was due in about 10 days.
Wow.
Like, we go from just never knowing when it might happen to like, and also the baby is due in 10 days.
Wow. So it wasn't a year and a half. I was thinking pregnancy and the whole term, but you only had a few weeks. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I think normally with all of these, they try to wait till the birth mother is pretty far along.
Okay.
Before they present her with the options of who to pick. So, but that does make it very quick.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you're going to be a parent in a month or less. I'm guessing Marie Murray is someone related to you, but Marie, I'm the same with you. I am wiping tears as just the emotional roller coaster this episode has been. And I imagine if you're related and you were living it, now you're reliving it, and it's true mercy.
Yes. That is my mom. That's my mom. And
okay. And this is our grandchild we're talking about.
I called her that day, and she, flipped out.
Yeah, I bet.
And then my mom, I think she text me, that day and said, I feel like there's something I should be doing right now. I'm like, well, there's nothing really to do right now. There'll be plenty of time, later. Oh yeah, I think I guess when I called her, I said, hello, Mama.
Oh, I bet that was, I know the excitement my mom had when we shared with her we were pregnant. So I'm sure it was a very similar excitement, and that was a good moment.
So after that, you gotta do a lot of paperwork. And those, in that time, they email you a bunch of stuff to fill out,
Yeah.
And we did, in that time, we did get to connect with the expectant mother over text message.
Hmm.
And she happened to be in in just like one city over from us.
Oh, wow.
Cause out of everything, we didn't know there was a chance that there were a few states they work with, or there was a chance we might have to go to a different state.
Okay.
But this happened to be right in the city over. And then in that week when we were waiting, we really and it's a part where I get emotional. We were the birth mother, like she read our profile and said that we were the perfect family because she could see how much we loved each other and and having a disability did not matter at all to her.
Wow.
And I think that led to like wow, like it was it was the child we were supposed to get, and it was the person that we were supposed to connect with, and
Yeah.
and you really do connect with that mother for the rest of your life. She will always be part of our family,
That is,
Uh,
yeah, I can't imagine, but that's a beautiful sentiment. I have some family members that adopted, and they have visitation with the birth mother.
yeah. We try to see her like once a year at least.
Mhm. Yeah.
We always tell Emmett like, oh, you know, he's the one that she had. You were in her belly.
Yeah.
And we make that a part of his story now, so that as he gets older, it's not this big like secret reveal.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because he turned what? He's 3. Let's see, if he was March of 21, so he's like 3.5 now.
In March 31st.
Okay.
And even after that, you were born on March 31st, and then we had to wait 2 days, and because we wanted him to be with the mother and for her to have that space,
Hmm.
and the funny part, she signed the papers and got released on a hot bill. And we're on the phone with like the person from the adoption agency, that was from the local agency.
Hmm.
And we're like, we don't really know, like, did we go to a hospital? What do we do?
Sure.
And they were like, oh, well, she just got released from the hospital. And the adoption person she was with her said we're gonna meet at this barbecue restaurant. And we were like, what? Like, and we were like, yeah. So we went to a barbecue restaurant to meet Emmett and meet his mom and and 2 ladies from an adoption agency to help us. And that was like a very weird thing.
Yeah.
We always say we got takeout that day.
That's great. Oh, I love that.
that was an emotional time to meet the mom and meet Emmett for the first time at 2 days old, you know.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of barbecue. But then the weird thing is, at the end, we put them in the car and like that's it. Like, you know, like it's kind of like surreal, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of expect the universe to like have bells and whistles and a party or something when that, but no, just okay, put the baby in the car seat and now we drive away and the baby's ours.
Yeah.
That's
we get home from my house and my mom and dad are already there.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fran asks the question, did you have a sense of relief when you got to take Emmett home?
You know what's funny is I think Diana did. I think for me it got more real.
Sure.
I think it was the opposite. I think that week Diana was sweating it out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of like a little bit more like okay, I think that will go. But then once we had the baby, I'm like, oh boy, this is real now.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot of dads have that feeling, like it's hard for them to see it until it's really there, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can imagine what that must be like. So I don't want to ignore I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this name right. Badre. It says, "You are good, my friend." And then he also had said, "Greetings and long live the mentality of goodness and love." So thank you. Yeah, thank you for both of those comments. And Marie and Fran, I thought it was Maria for a second. Marie and Fran, thank you for your comments today as well. So, Michael, we have just a few more minutes. I can't thank you enough for this emotional journey that you took me on in the audience today. I have shed quite a few tears. I've been off camera quite a bit, shedding tears of sadness and joy, and then sadness and then joy. And so I so appreciate you being so honest with the whole process and some of the
too. That lady who did a home study. So after we got Emmett, she had to do a check. She had to do a few check-ins.
Okay.
Before we made, I think she had come by, 3 times before we were able to officially legalize things.
Mm-hmm.
and those, again, those kind of made me nervous, like, I'm like, but I mean, but they were all really, really good,
Mm-hmm.
and she could tell that, Emmett was being taken care of, and, I think even though she was a very no nonsense person, tell it to you straight, she was also the one to really get the whole thing started for us and recommend the path that ended up being a great idea. So, sometimes I guess, and you probably have to do this in your job. Sometimes with IEPs, sometimes you gotta be a little bit of a straight talker. But
Sure.
but that but in the end, I knew that she was happy that the process went so well for us.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. That's incredible. So I just want to put up your website. If anybody would like more information about your books, they can go to www.nobodyleftout.net and they can learn about you. They can learn about where they can purchase your books. We didn't talk about those this time because that was the last episode, but I did just want to bring that up again. If you are looking for a devotional, he's got several good ones out there that you may want to purchase. And unfortunately, I do have to go today, right at the time. And so I just, again, my sincere thank you and appreciation for your rawness in sharing your journey of adoption. It's a difficult journey for anyone, but as I said at the beginning, compounded by the disability. And to share all that you shared. And Fran says thank you as well for being so open with the adoption process. And Michael, I don't know what we could talk about again, but I would love to have you on again to talk some more sometime. We'll have to find a topic that we can discuss for a while.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much. And thank you, audience, for being with me and Michael today. And for those who are watching and will comment in the replay, thank you for watching and commenting as well. Have a wonderful week. When this airs live, this is Halloween week. So happy Halloween, everybody. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, parents and teachers, are you tired of IEP meetings that feel like a battle? Let's put an end to the tension and create a collaborative, calm, and respectful environment together. Shelley Keno, your go-to IEP consultant, can transform your meetings into positive and productive experiences. With Shelley Keno, your child is her top priority, your voice is heard, and you become confident. Shelley Keno is making the world better for all, one IEP at a time. Visit www.shelleykeno.com for more information and set up your free 20-minute consultation today. That's shelleykeno.com, SHELLEYKENOW.